views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good morning, everyone. As always, I want to thank you all for jumping on and coming in to do the borough's business. Today, pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 85, and Chapter 69, Section 2706 of the New York City Charter, a joint meeting of the Bronx Borough Service Cabinet meeting and Bronx Borough Board will take place right here in Cyberland on WebEx today, Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, beginning approximately at 10 a.m. via our virtual conference. I think that with so much time that we've been sheltered and safe at home, it's important that we keep on bringing the message of normalcy as much as we can, and also just keep about the business of the borough. And on previous calls and encounters with the community boards, I've thanked you for doing just that, and I will do that again today. I will thank you for keeping about the business of the borough and bringing about this normal thing that we do every month and bringing information to the community and our boards respectively. So as you know, we have a pretty packed agenda. So there's going to be a lot of information. We'll talk today. We may have a few kinks. Let's be honest. This technology is something that we're all getting familiar with. So we might have a few kinks, but in that respect, I need to thank Chris and for his technical know-how. Thank you, Chris McQueen, IT for the Borough President's Office, and the rest of the staff who have worked throughout the weeks to, again, bring about our usual substance in our meetings. And I want to thank the rest of the staff led by Marisol Halprin. Thank you, Marisol, and all the rest of the team. So what we're going to do now is for the effect of showing our attendance, we usually go around the room and allow everyone to introduce themselves. But for the purposes of order, I'm going to ask that Chris keep everyone on mute. And then when I say the community board or office that you represent, then you will unmute yourself and then say who you are and then mute yourself again. Okay? And if I forget you or for some reason you think that there's something else that needs to be said, then please use the raise hand function, and then Chris will acknowledge. Will count you raising your hand, and then I will acknowledge you at the end of this process. So you are going to stay all muted. When I say your community board, you will unmute yourself, and then who you are, mute yourself again. Okay, that's what we're going to do, starting with community board 1. Okay, hearing no response, no community board 1. Community board 2.
Good morning, Ralph Alfavedo, District Manager. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Do we have anyone else from community board 2?
Madam Deputy, I think Chairman Crespo might get on, but he's not on yet, so I'll be here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Board 3. Okay, hearing none. Community Board 4.
Hello, Madam Deputy.
Good morning. This is Paul from Community Board 4. How's everybody doing?
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Paul. Okay. Somebody's not on mute. Community Board 5.
Good morning, everybody. This is Ken. Dr. Bola is very busy at the hospital, so I don't expect him. Morning.
Just listen, I ain't writing a couple minutes.
Thank you. Community Board 5.
You know,
Community Board 6.
guys, I didn't take any minutes.
Carla Leon, Community Board 6.
Community Board 7.
Good morning, everyone. This is Emmanuel, Chair of CD7. I'm the only one on the line as of right now.
Okay, thank you, 7. Community Board 8.
I muted myself.
Good morning, it's Claire Gannon, District Manager.
This is Rosemary Ginty. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great, wonderful, thank you. I'm here too.
Awesome. Thank you. Community Board 9.
It came from Marisol.
Andres Alonso, Assistant District Manager.
Marisol, please respond to my text message and asking you a question. Community Board 10.
Good morning, everyone. Matt Cruz, District Manager. Chair Joe Russo should be joining us shortly.
Okay, awesome. Community Board 11.
Hi, it's Jeremy Warnke, District Manager, Community Board 11. My chairman will not be joining us today, but I did request my staff join us. I believe one of my staff members at least is online.
Okay, awesome. Community Board 12.
Hey, good morning, everyone. George is here.
George, like Cher and Madonna, George
Yes.
is here. Okay, excellent. From our council members' offices, Council Member Ayala.
Good morning, everybody. Gilberto Alvarado, Community Liaison for Councilmember Diana Ayala.
Okay, and Council Member Gibson. Okay, I don't think I heard anything. Okay, Council Member Jonai.
Yes, Farah Rubin is here, Director of Constituent Services and Community Outreach, and I believe Tommy Messina is also on the line.
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Council Member King. Okay, I didn't hear anyone. Council Member Torres. Okay, no. Council Member Diaz. I think, what is the chair of Board 10 came on? Okay, Council Member Salamanca. Okay, I didn't hear anything. Council Member Cohen.
Good morning, everyone. This is Fatumata Tankara from Councilmember Cohen's office.
Thank you. And I think last but not least, Councilmember Cabrera.
Good morning, everyone. This is Greg Faulkner representing Councilman Cabrera's office.
Thank you. That's okay. All righty. So we're going to lead off our presentation with a presentation from the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board. We have, I hope I see this right, Jahai Rose, Deputy Director of Outreach and Intergovernmental Affairs. Oh, and he's going to present a overview of services and the right to know. So, Jahai,
Hello, good morning, everyone.
please correct me if I misspoke with your name.
Yes, it's Jahai.
Jahai. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Are you ready? Functionality is good. You're ready to do your screen or your whatever you need to do?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Then we're ready to go. I'm going to mute myself and go right into your presentation.
Wonderful. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So to indicate to everyone that the CC, my name is Jai Rose. I am the Deputy Director of Outreach and Intergovernmental Affairs. Our responsibility is to educate the general public. And if everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
The CCP agency, we are separate and apart from the New York City Police Department. Our general responsibility is to investigate, mediate, and actions of police misconduct. Our agency is currently governed by. However, charter changes that 13-member board will be increased to a 15-member board, including additional members being appointed by the public advocate. Currently, the board is appointed by the mayor. So they have five appointees that they can appoint to the board. The city council, 5 appointees that can be appointed to the board, and the charter change will allow in the New York City. The CCR have oversight over the New York City Police Department. The CCRB has a 4-point section that we have the ability to investigate allegations of force. Any allegation of force, which means if a police officer is punching, kicking, slapping someone, using an impact weapon like a baton or taser, if they use it, our investigations determine if the officer used the slot. One more. The CCRB has 4 jurisdiction. The points of force. Any use of force can be created by the CCRB. However, we're just verifying if the use of force was within the jurisdiction of the New York City Police Department via the police patrol guide. So even if a police officer, let's say for the sake of argument, draws their weapon during during interaction with a member of the public, or if the police officer discharges that weapon, or if the police officer simply pushes or hurts someone, as long as the active force is used, it can be investigated by the civilian complaint review. The next is abuse of authority. If the police officer abuses their authority, it can be construed as a police officer using tactics that do not fall within that officer's jurisdiction to gain a police officer asking someone for their immigration status, which does not fall under the police department's jurisdiction. A police officer or stopping someone for a justifiable cause. Sexual misconduct is also something that's being investigated by the CCRB, and with that sexual misconduct comes sexual harassment. Police officer for something that could be of authority can be investigated if the CCRB, if it falls in the fatal, in addition to if it violates the New York City Police Patrol Guide, which police officers are required to follow when executing duties. We also investigate acts of discourtesy, police officers using profane language while having an interaction with someone, if they're rude, if an officer uses rude hand gestures or discourteous hand gestures, those things can be investigated as well to verify if it falls under the category and if it violates the police patrol guide. And last but not least, offensive language. If a police officer uses language that inappropriately or negatively describes someone's race, religion, sexual orientation, perceived disability, and or perceived gender identity, then the police officer, then we can have an investigation conducted for that type of behavior as well. During this time period, we definitely understand that the New York City Police Department are on the front lines and they're interacting with members of the public. They may even be, and more so than now, breaking up groups of individuals that either know or don't know that they're not supposed to be congregating together. During this time period, we appreciate the actions of the New York police officers to keep our streets safe. Even during those interactions, police officers are still supposed to follow the Right to Know Act. The Right to Know Act was an act that was passed in 2018, October 19th, to be exact, where police officers are required to do a few different things before when it comes to interacting with members of the public. Those things include identifying to the individual that they are rank, shield number, and in some circumstances the individual officer. Before conducting a search, in the event they do not have to conduct that search, to indicate to the individual that asking the search and notify the individual that they have the right to say no. Saying that officer lingual, officer, individual officer being recorded. That individual officer that officer is supposed to language access. Hello? Yeah, so that officer is supposed to acquire language access services.
It sounds like we have, I'm trying my best to stay on top of this, but we may have somebody connected to something that is not muted, which is why we're getting that feedback. So again, everyone, if you are not speaking at the moment as part of the meeting, please, either with your phone or in WebEx, just mute yourself. I think we got rid of the feedback, so I'll mute myself now too, and hopefully we can continue.
Okay, can everybody hear me now? I have no objection. So, great. So, if the individual does not speak or is monolingual, then the officer is required to acquire language access, so the individual and the officer can be on the regarding what is being relayed to the individual. Last but not least, the officer, before the end of the interaction, is required to offer the individual a business card. That business card has the officer's name, badge number, rank, and precinct on it.
I shouldn't say thank God, but you know what I mean? Yeah. They went to the community boards and
with that information, in the event of certain types of stops where the officer must proactively offer this business card, but in all cases, if an individual would like the business card, then the individual can just ask the officer for the business card, and the officer is also required to provide it. During this time, the CCR 100 Church Street office is closed. That is our main interviews and conduct intake as well. The office will be closed until further notice. That being the case, we will continue to take remote complaints. So individuals can call the CCRB at 1-341-2272. The last four numbers spell out CCRB, so it makes it a little bit easier to remember. You can also go to our website at nyc.gov/CCRB complaint. Either of the two ways we'll be able to accept that those complaints and go forward within the intake process. Okay, if you'd like more information regarding ways to slow the spread of coronavirus, you can also visit nyc.gov/coronavirus. General, to a complaint or to file a complaint with the CCRB would be to make the complaint with the same one. This time, they will just forward you to our intake line. You could also come into our office directly at 100 Church Street to file a complaint, or any local precinct. So any precinct, even the one that's not specifically involved with the complaint, can be a space for you to be able to make. You just give the desk sergeant will give you a copy of the application or the form to fill out. They'll put that inside of a self-addressed envelope, and that envelope will be sent over to the CCRB. In the event an officer refuses to take that complaint from whichever precinct, that's also a complaint that can be made to the CCRB. We also do have what we call CPIs, Community Partnership Initiatives. So generally once a month, like offices like Councilmember Vanessa Gibson and or Councilmember Diana Ayala's offices, we have once a month intake where we have the ability to come to that individual office and face-to-face individuals that have made complaints. Those are all individuals who generally be able to make a complaint once the order is restored, and as I mentioned, or by mail. The outreach unit makes a greater effort to do as many presentations to the public as possible, to the public about what CCRB does, how to find general tips regarding interactions with New York City police officers, and understanding the Right to Know Act. We conduct these presentations anywhere that you could think of. So we do public education at educational institutions, after-school programs, houses of worship, community organizations, alternative to incarceration programs, barbershops and salons. We have an initiative called CCRB Courtside, where we will literally come to a local basketball court or a sports activity and do tabling to provide individuals in more of a recreational commerce setting with information regarding the CCRB and tips regarding interaction with New York City police officers. We do family days, board meetings, NYCHA, et cetera, et cetera. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have two questions, please. One is, what exactly is the CCRB able to investigate regarding the NYPD auxiliary? You know, are they covered to the same extent as the regular? And since the NYPD has been one of the primary enforcers of the social distancing regulations, has there been an uptick, or just what's your general observation of how they?
So it was hard for me to hear the first part of the question. I did hear the last part of the question. Did you ask has there been an uptake in complaints since the police department has been on the front lines regarding enforcement for social distancing?
In general, yeah. How has the NYPD been enforcing that? Has there been? And then the other question that I asked is, how do you cover the NYPD auxiliary, and are they covered to the same extent? Basically, have mirror regulations and obligated.
So the CCRB only conducts investigations for members of service. So those would be the officers that actually carry a gun. So like auxiliary crossing guards and the auxiliary crossing and school safety would be individuals that we would investigate. For the second part, there's been no real change regarding how many complaints we've received regarding interactions with police officers. It still seems to be for the month of March, the same amount of complaints that we've gotten last year, same time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is there anyone else who has questions? Please use the raise your hand function.
I am not seeing any on my end with raised hands, so.
Okay, so I'm hearing that there are no hands raised. I thank you for your presentation, Mr. Rose. Yeah, I know we had a little bit of audio. I thought we might have some. You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So I hope everyone else can hear me. Thank you for your presentation. I guess there's no question for the rest of the board. We're gonna move to our next presenter, which is the anti-idling media campaign. We're getting a presentation from the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, Mikkel Adgate, and Jacqueline Lockman, and the Borough of Public Affairs and Communications, again from New York City Department of Environmental Protection. Are they on and ready?
Yes, good morning.
Jacqueline, are you sharing the presentation from your computer?
I have it open so I can, or you can, whichever is easier.
Yeah, I think that'll be easiest, just so you can control, the slides and everything as we go. So give me one.
I'm sorry, is it just share screen?
Yeah, you can either share the entire screen, or you should see options to share if it's PowerPoint or a PDF program. You should see an option here in WebEx that you could share just the window with the presentation.
How's that?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jackie, are you on?
Here, Mikkel. I'm on video, so I can see both.
Okay, great. Well, again, good morning, everyone. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you about this campaign that we launched back in February. We had hoped to get in front of all of you earlier, so we really appreciate just the opportunity to share what we've been working on at DEP. I think many of you are familiar with our mission as the country's largest water and wastewater utility, but also as part of our mandate, we do work on air quality programming. And I think all of you know that over the years, the city has made a lot of progress as it relates to air quality improvements, but we still have work to do. You can see this data from City DOHMH, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, showing that through their community air survey, we can see that air quality is improving, but that there are parts of the city where we could see continued improvements. And so we've been working really hard over the last, several decades to think about what are ways that we can improve air quality from a regulatory perspective. And obviously vehicle traffic is one of those issues that really impacts neighborhoods, particularly neighborhoods in the Bronx. So since 1972, we've had some type of idling enforcement in the city. So for those of you that are familiar with the law, there's a 3 minute maximum idling allowance, 1 minute maximum allowance if your vehicle is near a school. And we have published sort of best practices and encourage citizens to file complaints, really to get citizens to be our eyes and ears on the ground when they're seeing trucks idling in particular. And there are a few exceptions, but there are also aggressive penalties, and we have some of the most aggressive enforcement opportunities to us in the country, and we've really done a lot to make it difficult for idlers, but also to encourage people to use best practices and to think like when you're not driving, your car should not be running because it has an air quality impact for you and for your neighbors. So if you're not familiar with our Citizens Air Complaint Program, I encourage you to visit our website and take a look at it. What's interesting about this program is that not only can you document if a truck that you see is idling, if there is an enforcement action against that vehicle or against that company, you can collect a portion of the fine. So it's an opportunity for people to actually generate some income. We've heard of people collecting hundreds, if not thousands of dollars through this program. I just want to caution, it's not a way to complain against other personal vehicles. So it's not sort of against like, just a parked car on the street. It's really going after the truck traffic, those larger vehicles that have the type of emissions that are more harmful to air quality. So about a year ago, we were asked to come up with some type of behavior change media campaign. Obviously we have this one approach from the regulatory and the enforcement side, but we started thinking, what could we do to be more educational, more informational, and really target New York City residents who own cars, commercial vehicle owner and operators, and really educate them that when they idle, they are polluting, and encourage them to have some key takeaways, that they'll turn off their engine when their vehicle isn't moving, and that they can be subject to penalties if they don't. And so I want to turn it over to Jackie Lackman, who is our Director of Marketing, who really took on this project to think about innovative and creative ways to reach New Yorkers. So go ahead, Jackie.
And Mikkel, you can keep clicking since you're. Good morning, everyone. I'm thank you for allowing us to be here. I am very happy to be able to bring this to everyone. Unfortunately, we kind of got started on this and then had to pause a little bit. So I'm going to take you through where we were and where we're going, I think. So we tried to come up with a campaign that was both interesting and informative, and we had this idea to go to we had a bunch of ideas, and one of the ideas was to approach Billy Idol and see if we could have some fun with the play on words of idle and idling. And thankfully he loved New York and had fond memories of his time here and helped us. So he allowed us to have the use of his image and helped us with a press day to help us spread the message. So Mikkel, if you could go to the next slide. The campaign was called Billy Never Idles. It was, as Mikkel mentioned, $1 million campaign that is still sort of drawing out. It was supposed to be about a month long, but because a lot of things in the world got paused, our billboards and some of the media is still up. So the attack was primarily outdoor because I'm sure you all realize that a lot of the truck drivers that come into New York maybe don't know the laws of New York, and you may see them being one of the biggest challenges that the city has with people idling is they'll run into a place for a delivery and maybe not even realize they've been idling as long as they have, or maybe don't even know the laws that Mikkel just went over. And then, of course, the consumers are the best place we figured is where people who had vehicles were out and about. So we had high profile billboards in all of the bridges and tunnels all around New York City. And some of them are still up. I'm not sure when they're going to come down because I don't think that there's been a lot of change in media at the moment, or even people to change the board. So hopefully that'll even help us educate more people. And then we also used gas stations because, again, we wanted to be where people truck drivers, car owners were to be able to get the message out there. So you'll see on the campaign here, it's Billy Never Idles, Neither Should You, and it's a lot of iterations of that. Mikhail, can you go to the next slide? And one of the big ways that we were able to utilize Billy Idol was his voice. He recorded a lot of radio commercials for us, and even customized ones that we'll be able to use for a long time that are PSAs. We did have a paid media campaign, again, using places like traffic and weather, news, where folks that cared about that have cars are out in their cars and just trying to educate them at the point they are that really the challenges with idling. And then there was a morning where Billy even came in and did some interviews for us on the radio. So you see here a big list of radio stations. We were pretty much on every major radio station for months, and then we paused the campaign for a month and for several weeks, I guess, and now we'll probably go back on with the rest of the campaign when the time seems more appropriate. But we did have a pretty intense flight up to the point where things got a little challenging. And we also were all over digital and continue to be on digital. We were on all of the social media and still are. You'll see if you go to our website, if you go to our Instagram, any of our social media, that we are still we're still featuring some of the campaign, but at the time we also had a significant amount of paid media in all those digital places too. Again, a lot of folks are looking at their email and looking at their in their phones all day long, so we tried to get the word out in any way we thought we could connect with consumers, and do it in a way where it was actually where they were in or around their cars, so that they were learning the rules and just thinking twice. I think that the beauty of the Billy Idol, if you will, was also that it I think was a little bit arresting. Certainly the photo is a very arresting photo, and you'll see that puck now on the right-hand side, the shut it off visual. We hope to use that for years to come. We did have an ad agency partner on this, who I should give a little bit of credit to, Starfish. They were through the Department of DOHMH. They helped us identify an advertising partner with this. So DOHMH was also helpful in developing this campaign, as well as the fact that the agency did some really nice work on it. And we also were able to put this campaign, and hopefully we'll put it back up again, in a lot of New York City's media. We were on Linked NYC, in the taxis, on the 311 hold messages, and actually the trucks from the Department of Sanitation, they are still gonna put the campaign up at a later time, because right now things aren't working so easily for everybody to be able to change out advertising, but they do have the posters and will be displaying them over the summer, or as soon as it seems appropriate. But we did sort of tap every touch point in the city to be able to grow this message and spread the word. And we also hope that as your offices all and your folks interface with the community, as much as you can continue to remind this message. We don't want to see growth in childhood asthma. We don't want to see a more polluted planet. We do want to help anywhere we can, make New York a leader in this area like it currently is, but even more so. I think Billy Idol's actually gotten calls from all over the United States about his caring about this topic. So hopefully the word's going to spread even beyond New York City. And just back to that point of trying to be where people are and get the message out where people are, you'll see that we, even with our premium items, which we still have plenty of because we really haven't even had time to deliver them out to the public, but the t-shirts we did get on to thousands of employees. Every employee eventually at the Department of Environmental Protection will have one, and even beyond that, we had them for the radio stations, and we'll continue to distribute t-shirts, which becomes like a walking billboard of reminding people to shut their engines off. the same thing goes with bumper stickers and the air fresheners that would be in your car and keychains. And we have ice scrapers. Again, just trying to get that message to people that if you're in your car, shut it off, no matter how long you're in the car. So we, again, tried to choose items that were there. And then finally, we had a very special day where Billy joined us in New York that last week of February. He spent the day with the mayor, and at City Hall, we had just global coverage of the media. Certainly all of New York knew about it, but then it also ran all over the world. I think at one point I checked Google and there were 444,000 hits on Google for Billy Never Idles. So when Billy came to City Hall and launched the campaign for us, it really did help get the message out quickly. And it was before everything got challenging. So hopefully it made some impressions on people. The mayor certainly also supported the whole idea. It was really his idea to keep being loud about the message related to idling. And we have a hashtag out there, so please encourage your constituents to visit the website, use the hashtag. If we can help you with getting that message out, we have materials, premium items. Once we're all back up and running, we're happy to help spread that word beyond just our office. So thank you. Mikkel, is there any more slides to that?
No, I would just add before we take questions that, you know, we working with Effie, who I know all of you know, we had planned to bring some of the giveaways to the meeting so that you all could have some and you all could take some back to your community boards and offices. So since we weren't able to do that, when things calm down and we're all back into the office, we'll work with Effie to figure out a way to distribute some of that material, because we really do see it as a way to help remind people of the message, right? This is ultimately a behavior change campaign, so we want to get people right when they're in their car, have that quick reminder of, oh, I should turn it off right now. So we'll follow up with all of you on that. Chris, I think I saw a couple of questions come in. Do I want to take those?
Okay. Have we finished the presentation? Are we ready for questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to say, like, that definitely the campaign itself for someone like me, it was very, very effective. I saw and heard it, and it was like, wow, it was something that made people, me pause, and think about the fact that, wow, Billy Idol is really getting involved here. I only have one thing in terms of how to improve the T-shirt. I noticed that the Bronx wasn't first on the T-shirt.
Yeah, we heard that comment. My grandma is from the Bronx, and that was also her first comment to me. So we're gonna take that back for sure.
Yes. So, you know, when you bring those goodies back to us, we might want to see that.
I hear you.
Okay. Let's see. Questions. I'm just gonna read what I see in no particular order, and then if your hand is raised, Chris will let me know that the hand is raised. I'm seeing, what are restrictions for vehicles, buses, and cabs on idling when dropping off and picking up passengers?
So those vary. There's a difference between like the city transit bus system and say the like tourist buses. So there's greater restrictions for the tourist buses, particularly since they tend to have air conditioning and they might like park outside of a museum or a location for some time. So there's sort of greater restrictions on that. There's not any specific restriction that I know of particular to cabs, but I do think that that's an interesting point that we can take back to the team and see if that's something that's been looked at in the past.
I also see there's a question on the side here about the current funding. We did originally have a budget for this, and it was used at the moment. We do have everything on pause that was paid. It was paid for months ago, so I don't see any new funds coming to it. But it is paused at the moment.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the idling program going forward, some of those questions remain to be seen because we had hired additional staff. We were planning to hire even more staff, and considering the circumstances and the PEG, we'll continue to evaluate. But ultimately, DEP, because our mission is rooted in protecting health and protecting the environment, we continue to fight for the resources that we need to be able to do that.
I would also say, thankfully, the Billy Idol thing continues to have legs even without money because people have shared it. We hope you'll, it made the message go farther, and hopefully people will just keep sharing it and keep via viral. It will continue to have life. So I think that the merchandise going out there, I think we're going to do all we can to keep it alive once the message seems appropriate again.
And I do see the question about air quality being better. I agree with you. I think we've heard anecdotal evidence. We've seen some really compelling photos from around the world of smog lifting because there's not as many vehicles on the road. I think it's going to take some time for DOHMH to be able to get us the quantitative data on that for New York City, but that is something that we'll be following up on with them on, because I'm interested to know what those numbers are too.
But I'm sure it's never going to be a good idea to be idling, even with the improved environmental conditions. We're
exactly
want that to happen. Do we have any hands up?
No, just double check.
Okay, so I guess if you are not visible or you don't have the functionality of raising your hand, and you're on the line and you have a question, now's your time to do so.
Yeah, all of the phone users have been unmuted. So if any of you have a question, you can ask now.
Okay. Okay, no more questions.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here and really letting us dig in a little bit with that program. Moving right along, I think this is something a lot of us are excited about. So we're going to go to MTA Construction and Development regarding the Penn Station Access Project, the new Metro North Station. We're going to have presenter Joseph O'Donnell, Director of Public Affairs, MTA Construction and Development. Joseph, are you on?
Yeah, hi everybody, how you doing? Thank you, Madam Deputy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you here. Of course, the Bronx is really excited about what's about to come, and we're anxious to hear about what you have to say today.
Sure, as are we. I'm also joined on the line or on the phone by Bharati Kumraj, who is familiar to a lot of you folks in the Bronx already. She's my person on the ground there in the community. Fortunately, or unfortunately, as the case may be, she's not out and about as much as she normally would be. Bharati and I did make a robust round of engagements with the community boards along the project, community boards 2, 10, 9, and 11, all of whom I heard hello to my colleagues from the community boards along the alignment. I heard you guys check in this morning, so welcome. Also, just briefly wanted to extend my condolences. I do know that some of my colleagues from the Bronx community boards suffered some losses as a result of COVID-19. So my sincere, heartfelt condolences for your losses. I know we're all suffering, but when there's a loss of life involved, it's particularly that much more tragic, obviously. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump into a brief overview of the project for the benefit of those folks who we wouldn't have otherwise already engaged with. Madam Deputy, I know we met, we had a meeting in Borough Hall probably late 2018. I've met with all of the community boards, as I mentioned. We continue to work.
Joe, I'm gonna jump in for a minute. I'm so sorry to interrupt your flow there. I'm not hearing you very well. So I'm thinking maybe other people are not hearing you very well.
Chris, anything I can do to help that?
On my end, the only thing, is it unclear, Deputy, or is it too low?
The volume is low. So if it's just me, I'll be quiet, but.
Yeah, Joe, the only thing is maybe there's a setting in WebEx here. If you see the 3 dots and go to speaker, microphone, and camera.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear anything.
Joe, are you connected to headphones or you're just speaking off the audio of your computer?
No, I'm just speaking off the audio of the computer.
I mean, I hear you loud and clear, but I don't.
I just raised the mic volume at all. Did that help at all, Madam Deputy?
It helped on my end. I'm sorry if it's just me. Let's push ahead with everyone else. I will struggle.
Okay. As I was saying, just for the benefit of everybody who wouldn't otherwise have gotten a preview of what this project is all about, I'm going to go into a little bit about the the overall project to put it into context. I'll give you a sense of where we are today, how we've been impacted by COVID-19, and then obviously I will I'll be happy to take any questions that I can answer at this time. So let me just try to share a screen here. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we see your screen. At the moment,
the presentation?
Not yet. Yeah, if it's an issue on your end, I could share it here and advance the slides when it works for you. But yeah, in there.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. I mean, for experience, then I had sent over the presentation yesterday, so.
Yeah. All right, let me just.
There it is.
So obviously we're here to speak to you today about the Penn Station Access Project. Next slide. Just to give everybody a sense of context, the Penn Station Access Project is an MTA capital construction project, which will open 4 new Metro North Railroad links along the existing Hellgate line, Amtrak's Hellgate line, creating 4 new ADA stations at Co-op City, Morris Park, Parkchester Van Ness, and Hunts Point. This will introduce convenient direct rail service to communities underserved by mass transit, And for the first time, commuters from the East Bronx will have a direct one-seat ride into Penn Station and Manhattan's West Side, as well as to Westchester and Connecticut. Up until we were impacted by COVID-19 and travel restrictions, Metro North ridership had been growing. And I don't know that anybody from DCP is on, but DCP will tell you also that the Bronx is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing county in New York State. So this is expected to be a large help for ridership from the Bronx, not only coming into Manhattan, but we anticipate a robust reverse commuting into business centers in Westchester and Connecticut, as well as bringing folks, world-class talent, out to the Bronx, especially to areas like Montefiore, where there's a robust medical community there too. This project is not only a benefit for the Bronx, it's a huge benefit for the Bronx, but it's also a benefit for Manhattan, Westchester, Connecticut, and the region as a whole, because as many of you might remember, back in Superstorm Sandy, Metro North was cut off from traveling into Manhattan, and this would allow not only additional new service to the Bronx, but a redundancy in service into Manhattan. Next slide, Chris. Again, on the station locations, just to drill down a little bit, we'll have a new station in Co-op City, which services a major residential community of over 50,000 people. Another station in Morris Park, which is a major hospital center serving over 13,000 employees and adjacent to the proposed reuse of the former Bronx Psychiatric Care Center. Parkchester Van Ness will also be getting a station. This is a distinctive residential community of over 43,000 people. And Hunts Point, which is a vibrant residential community of 36,000 plus the home of the Hunts Point Market and transfer point for the 6 train, will also be getting a station. Next slide. Some of the benefits anticipated from the project: decreased travel times. I'll go into it a little bit more, but there are significant travel time savings to be achieved, especially for those communities that have to take multiple modalities to get into Penn Station or points north at this point. I mentioned briefly that we anticipate a robust reverse commuting ridership, so we're going to be creating real-time and true reverse commuting opportunities. I also mentioned that there will be a regional transportation connectivity. Once folks from the Bronx or from points north get into Penn Station, they'll be able to transfer to the PATH and Amtrak, and then even LIRR, and truly make this a regional connection. You're going to have enhanced network reliability. Not only is it a second artery for Metro North to get into Manhattan, but it provides redundancy as well in the event that there's a problem on the existing lines. It optimizes the existing infrastructure, and this is one of the beautiful aspects of this project, and one of the reasons why, frankly, when I go into a lot of communities, there is sometimes some discontent, or maybe not everybody is as enthusiastic about us coming in and building because of the disruption that the construction brings with it. Here, we're in a unique position where we're going to be optimizing the existing infrastructure, so 99% of our work is going to be happening within the existing Amtrak right-of-way. We're taking an area that is already large enough to handle 5 sets of train tracks and is only utilizing 3, and we're going to build that out to, to be more effective. So we're utilizing that existing infrastructure and maximizing the infrastructure. It'll create economic vitality. Again, it's going to bring, not only is it going to bring job talent to, the Bronx, but it's going to allow the folks who operate businesses in the Bronx to attract more customers. And it's also going to allow, obviously, for that reverse commuting for folks in the Bronx to get to points north business centers in Westchester and Connecticut. It's literally and figuratively going to bridge communities. Not only is it going to create an access point for the Bronx to the west side of Manhattan, but when you have places like Parkchester Van Ness, where the Amtrak right-of-way right now bisects the community, or even in Morris Park, where it cuts off Montefiore from the other side of the tracks, we will be creating passageways not only to get to our trains, but then that folks will be able to go from one side of the community to the other without having to go around the tracks or, God forbid, over the tracks. So it will literally bridge communities. And then there's the sustainability aspect of it. Obviously, by getting more people onto trains, we get them out of cars, and that helps with emissions and greenhouse gases. Next slide. I talked a little bit about time savings, and I'm not going to go through every single one of these here, but just to give you a sense of the real-time savings. For instance, right now, Co-op City Penn Station, users are transit riders, and I forgot, I was remiss in the beginning. I wanted to say hello to my colleague, Jackie Carter. Hey, Jackie, I know you're on too, so Jackie could even probably chime in if she wanted here to talk a little bit about some of what an existing rider might have to do to get to the west side and to Penn Station. But right now, typical travel time using the current modalities is about 75 minutes. Fast forward to when we're completed with this project, we anticipate that's going to be a 30-minute ride. So that's a 45-minute time savings. Morris Park to Penn Station, currently 60 minutes, 25-minute travel time in the future, 35-minute savings. These things all add up, and this is a quality of life issue. I've made this analogy to my friends at the community boards. I live on Long Island. I commute to Manhattan. It's roughly about an hour and a half commute for me every day between the train and then the subways to my respective office. Prior to coming over to the MTA about 10 years ago, I was at a crossroads job that I didn't necessarily love. And boy, was that 3-hour commute long. And there were certainly other things that I could be doing, better things with my time than commuting 3 hours a day to a job that I didn't even like. So this 45 minutes each way that we're going to give back to people adds up when you build it out over the course of a week or a month or a year. Using Second Avenue Subway as an example, that was a 20-minute time savings each way, and we build that out over the course of a year, and we anticipated that we were giving people back 7 days a year that they would have other better use of their time based on all the trip time savings from that. So we anticipate similar quality of life savings from this project, and this gives you a sense of some of those breakdowns. And as you notice, I mentioned the real-time reverse commuting. Some of the largest time savings are going to be going to points north. So for folks who live in the Bronx and work in possibly Stamford, which is a financial and business center, this is going to save you potentially 95 minutes, which is life-changing. Next slide, Chris. Along with the new stations, there are significant infrastructure improvements that are going to be made for the benefit of Amtrak and for the benefit of Metro North. I won't bore you with the technical details, but we're going to be putting in new AC and DC substations. There's obviously new track. There will be new catenary structures which will be used to power the trains, and then a high-speed signaling system, which is all the rage these days. I'm sure you hear about CBTC and modern signaling for not only for Metro North but for our subway stations. It allows us to run trains more closely together, safer and faster. So these are a lot of the upgrades you see here on the screen that will benefit not only Metro North but Amtrak as a result. Next slide. Some of the potential challenges, this is about the time in the presentation where I would otherwise normally talk about where we are on the project and what our schedule looks like. So one of the obvious challenges that we face right now is what COVID-19 is doing to our scheduling. We are in a state of pause right now. The governor has asked us to hold on any new procurements. So what that means is all of the projects that are presently funded and for which we've already have money and contracts awarded are fine to move forward. And we've been doing that successfully during this COVID-19 crisis because we were aggressive and early in implementing strict COVID safety protocols. We stood up a hotline very early on for our contracting and consulting community. So from a C&D standpoint, construction and development, we've seen very good numbers that indicate that we were, early adapters and able to advance our projects, continue to advance our projects safely and effectively while this COVID crisis was going on. That said, we can't award any new contracts for 60 days. So whereas in January and February, when I spoke to my friends at the community boards, our anticipation was that probably around this time, sometime in April or May, we would be coming back out to the community boards to let them know where we were in our environmental assessment process and our coordination with the federal government to make that the environmental assessment public so that we could engage the community and get public feedback on that environmental impact statement. We are not there yet, obviously, because of the hold and the pause that we are on. So what was a April-May timeline is probably looking like, an end of summer, maybe early fall timeline at that point. But what we're doing now is, because we are on pause, we are actively advancing design and engineering so that we are as shovel ready as possible once there is the go-ahead to return to normalcy, whatever that new state of normalcy is. That state of normalcy will also dictate how we will be able to engage the community. I imagine even once we are allowed to get back to work and, community is allowed to engage, I don't know that a lot of people are going to be running out to large-scale meetings, at least publicly. We are going to be investigating, similar to how the Borough President's Office is doing this meeting virtually. We would investigate ways to do those meetings virtually if needed, so that we could get public feedback on that environmental impact assessment. And when I spoke to Marisol earlier on in the year, one of the reasons why I was excited about coming to this meeting was due to the ability to reach all of the community boards and the stakeholders around the Bronx, so that we could use you guys as a sounding board to help us get the word out to the Bronx community at large that, hey, now is the time to come check out this environmental impact document and weigh in. Let us know your concerns, any fears that you might have, any questions you might have. So I hope to come back to you guys in the future, when we do return to a sense of normalcy and have that same dialogue. But that's where we are from a scheduling standpoint. Some of the potential challenges that we have and that we've always had, irrespective of COVID-19, are federal funding. We are in this yin and yang process with the FTA right now, where we're going back and forth on this environmental impact document. So we need for them to be diligent, and obviously they've got a lot of other more pressing priorities on their agendas right now. But we need them to continue to pay attention to us and our projects, specifically this project, because we're getting ready to go. We need Amtrak. I've said from day one that Amtrak is, I don't want to say the biggest obstacle. They had been a very large obstacle, but we are meeting in good faith and we are having very productive dialogues with them. But I mentioned this project takes place inside Amtrak's right-of-way, which means they own that land, they own that property, they own those tracks. Not only do they need to give us permission to go in there to do the work, but they have to approve our plans. They have to approve any service impacts that we may have. There are going to be some situations where we're doing our work and we're going to ask them to run trains less frequently. So they have to buy into all that. You see on the screen too, cooperation of freight. As you're all probably well aware, CSX is a large contributor to Hunts Point Market. Not only do they bring produce and supplies and materials in and out of the Hunts Point Market, but they also pick up the refuse there. So we need to make sure that we are working with CSX, who happens to be a tenant of Amtrak, to make sure that we are not adversely impacting their ability to do what they need to do, as well as making sure that we're able to advance our project in a timely and effective fashion. So we are having dialogue with all of these folks right now. We continue to have those dialogue virtually and continue to move the process forward. So despite the fact that we are in this COVID-19 pause, we're still doing all of those things behind the scenes very aggressively and very robustly to make sure that we have this project up and ready and as fully advanced as we can when we come out of this holding pattern. Next slide. Working together, that goes without saying. As I mentioned, we've been working with the Department of City Planning. We've participated in their various charrettes throughout the Bronx over the course of 2018 and 2019. Our partners at DCP and New York City are the ones who are largely in charge, if not completely in charge, of those first mile, last mile components of what folks would think. You know, I get a lot of questions about street lighting and safety and greenification or parking. A lot of that is in the city's court. You know, we're building the stations and the new track. Those discussions are ongoing about the other accoutrements or the surrounding elements. Like I said, first mile, last mile, and that largely falls within Department of City Planning's court. So we're actively engaged with them. We're actually engaged with DOT and EDC and working within our engineering constraints at this time to make sure that we're leveraging everything that we can. Similarly, and I'll probably get to it a little bit more when we talk about community engagement in a couple of slides, you know, but the borough president has been very gracious, and his office and Madam Deputy, you all have been great partners, along with County Executive Latimer's office. Last year, we kicked off a Bronx Westchester Community Coalition, of which both the borough president's office and the county executive's office brought stakeholders to the table. We had upwards of 100 people at that meeting. Again, trying to reach people who have a greater than one-to-one voice, much like you all here on this meeting, so that we could get as much word and as effectively as possible out to your constituents and to the community. So we continue to do that. Next slide. Our commitments, you know, we're committed to providing updates, you know, those critical updates that you all need to know about any changes in scheduling, changes in design, changes in our construction practices. Obviously, we're not there yet from a construction standpoint, but the beginning of 2019, we were out and about when we started our environmental testing, which included some borings and test pits and things of that nature, some inside the public domain and outside the right-of-way. You know, so we were sure to send out notifications to the borough president's office and all of the Bronx elected officials, as well as the stakeholders and community boards, to let them know that they may see some activity. Or if you all, you know, one of the things that we try to do is we try to be cognizant of the fact that you are all the first point of contacts for a lot of your constituents. So if somebody sees something out of the ordinary within their community, they may not necessarily call the MTA up, and they may not put two and two together. So they're going to call you all and ask, what's this rig doing in my neighborhood? So we want to make sure that you're as educated as possible about those steps that we're taking, so that you should get any calls like that or inquiries like that, that you're prepared and not hearing about it from your constituents first. Additionally, we want to receive feedback. You know, I was committed early on, and I told my colleagues at the community boards, this is a two-way conversation. We want to hear from you just as much as you all hopefully want to be hearing from us about this project. So be sure, you know, you have a direct point of contact in me at the MTA, so you have a one-to-one contact for sure at 2 Broadway. You know, Body, as I said, is my point person in the field. So, you know, if I can't be in the Bronx every single day, at least we know we have point of contact there in the Bronx as well. I mentioned we want to provide you updates on information about major milestones to keep all of our stakeholders engaged and informed. And then in a little bit, I'll be showing you a link to our website. You know, part of our community outreach, Chris, you could go to the next slide. Part of our community outreach was not only participating in the DCP charrettes, not only going out to the community boards, not only kicking off the Penn Station Bronx Westchester Community Conference Coalition, but we also stood up a brand new project website last year, which you'll see the link for in a moment. So we encourage you, you know, to send any questions or concerns you have through there. There's a link there for an email. I'm happy to share my contact information with anybody who needs it or who doesn't otherwise already have it. You know, you can have my email and cell phone, as well as my office phone. Next. And here's how you all can get involved. As I mentioned, we have a new project website. Well, it's a year old now, so hopefully it has good information that folks may not otherwise be privy to. as we do presentations and engage in the community similarly to today, we'll post all of those documents up there. As plans develop or change, we will post that stuff. There will be items that you may see in the news that are end up there. You can also sign up for our e-blasts. Right now, we're not necessarily blasting out as frequently as often as we would like, because we're cognizant of the fact that people have other concerns on their mind right now, and the project is in slightly a bit of a holding pattern. But you can also email us any concerns that you have to PSA, or even just questions, PSA outreach at mtacc.info. As I mentioned, we're on hold with the procurements, but we are cognizant of the fact that this is a very important project to the Bronx. We are firm believers that New York City Transit is the circulatory system, literally and figuratively, of Manhattan and the greater New York area, the 5-borough area. So we want to make sure that not only do we get back up and running at full steam. Right now, we're working under a slightly reduced service plan, but we want to make sure that we expand and address those transit deserts, not only to help you all get from point A to point B, but the construction that is going to put those pieces in place certainly could serve as an economic engine to help us get up back on our feet as we come out of this COVID crisis. So we're aware of that, and we may be reaching out to you all as we continue to work with our DC delegation, to lobby for more stimulus money down the road. So we may be, again, just reaching out to you folks because of your greater than one-to-one reach and the status that you have within your respective communities, just to exhibit or share with the congressional delegation how important this project is to the Bronx and your constituents. So I know I sped through a lot there, and I am a fast talker despite not being originally from New York. I hear all the time. So I am happy to open it up to any questions that I might be able to answer, or certainly take them down and get back to you with the appropriate information. So with that, Madam Deputy, I turn it back over to you for questions.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to, of course, thank you for your presentation. It was very comprehensive, something that we're all, again, very interested in. I know you mentioned our friend to the Bronx, Jackie Carter, so I wanted to just see if she had anything that she'd like to interject in at this time. Is Jackie still there, or?
Let me just check. Jackie's audio may have been telephone, if I recall from the beginning. So let me just unmute the telephone users in case Jackie is there. Jackie, are you there?
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Hi, Joe. Hey, Baraka. How are you? Believe it or not, this is really the first time I've actually seen this presentation. So I'm very happy to be able to see this. But as we've always said before, when it gets to the point that these stations are going to be done, that we're definitely going to work to make sure that we can provide the bus service to be closer to the station, because I know that's one of the questions and concerns that always comes up at the community board. Well, you don't have any buses. What if I have to take a bus from where I live to get to the station? And as we always said, of course, we're going to re-examine our bus service to make sure that we can get it closer to the station. And other than that, let's cross our fingers that we can make this happen soon.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. And Barati, welcome. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. As Joe mentioned, I've been put on this project with the community outreach, and it's amazing because I'm back in my home borough and being out there with the community. This is a lot different. It's a new norm to many, but to me, it just feels so strange, and I'm still adapting, so I know it's challenging. We did lose a few board members, and some are in the hospital, and family and friends have passed, and people are going through all of that. So our deepest prayers and condolences go out from our entire team to those board members, especially at Board 9. They lost 2 members whom I was privileged to sit on the board with at the time when I did in the past. So Sharon and Reverend Sidney Hargrave, who passed away, They were staples in the community, always out and about. And I know that when we had the full board meetings in regards to Penn Station access and the Metro North stations, they were a part of it. So I know Shirley's here on this meeting. So our condolences go out from our entire team. And Joe, we're going to continue doing all we can, And to everyone else, if you have any questions, please email us directly, email myself directly. And if we can do any outreach in the time of this pandemic, please let us know, particularly with Penn Station access, or even if you have a question, we can direct you to the right people. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I see one question that is on the board here, and I'll ask everyone who has a question and can raise their hand to do so now, so Chris can acknowledge you in a moment. But the one question that I see here is about the projected cost of per ride. So Community Board 11 is asking that what that cost might be. I'm not sure it was mentioned in the presentation.
Yeah, so I think there's two avenues there. I don't know if you're talking about relative cost based on the overall project budget and what the projected ridership is, when we talk about cost per mile of a respective project, or if you're specifically talking about what that ride is going to cost from the Bronx into Penn Station or to Points North. I feel like it's probably the latter.
Per customer ride.
Yeah, so we don't have that number yet. Obviously, that would be more tailored towards my folks in service planning over at Metro North to plan that out as we get closer. We are anticipating right now, from the time that we put shovels into the ground, that it's going to take about 4 years to construct this project before we have service up and running. So we would actually, be negligent if we tried to predict what the economic climate was like. Obviously, we got this curveball of COVID-19 right now. So without being able to predict the future in 4 years down the road, I don't know what that cost per ride is going to be yet. We will know further down the road and as we get into this project. What I do know from my friends at Metro North, and when we've been out into the public before at these at the community board meetings and at the various DCP charrettes, is that it'd be similar to what the current inner city Metro North pricing is. They are also looking at things like Long Island Railroad has the city ticket from Atlantic Terminal to Jamaica Station to incent folks to use it. We are cognizant of the fact that, there's a big difference between a subway fare right now and what a Metro North ticket is. And if it's simply a dollars and cents thing and not all of the benefits that you might otherwise achieve from the one-seat ride, the ability to spread out a little bit, which is obviously a big factor coming out of COVID, and the efficiency of the ride, then that cost savings or that cost differential is going to be a big factor. So we know that's on people's minds. It's just something that hasn't been hashed out yet. It'll be a little bit closer towards completion of the project that we'll know for sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that answer. Chris, do we have any other hands? Do you see any hands?
No hands raised. Again, the phone users, I'll just unmute you. Just give me 1 second here. Let me see if any questions.
Joe, there's no hands raised. That means that was a great presentation.
Well, thanks for having us. And again, Marisol and I have been speaking about coming out to you all as we, embarked on the community engagement process. So once we have a better sense, I hope you guys will have us back again.
Do we have any questions from on the call, folks?
Yes, Deputy. This is Emmanuel from CD7.
Wonderful.
Would it be possible we can obtain the presentation via PDF? I'd be really interested in just continue to read up on it, and I'm sure my executive committee would like to learn about it as well.
Absolutely. I don't know what the standard operating procedure for the meeting is, Madam Deputy, but if you guys, I sent over the PDF to Marisol, so you all have it. You're more than welcome to post it. We'll post it on our website, and I'm happy to share the link, to whoever needs it, or even share the PDF one-to-one if you need it.
Yeah, what we would normally do, thank you for that. Marisol has a copy, and what we'll do is send it out in our usual email blast to all the folks on this call, and certainly also all the ones that may have wanted to be on and missed it. So we'll do that.
Perfect.
Any
Thank you.
additional questions from those folks on the call?
Deputy VP, just Joe, if it's okay, maybe they could send the presentation to all 12 boards. I know that we specifically focused on the 4 boards that the stations were coming to, but maybe if anyone has questions, I think it'll be good since we're on this meeting with many of them.
Yeah, that's that's the plan. Because we send our blast out, as you know, as you're very familiar with, um, to all the folks that are invited. We'll then take that list and then send that the information back out in that manner. So, yep, we'll do that. So, any more questions, comments?
I hadn't heard any, so I had muted the phone users at that point.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. That's always a good sign. Thank you for your presentation. We appreciate you being here. I think especially at a time like this, it's great to see things moving forward. We're at home. We don't necessarily know what's going on outside, but it's good to know that you guys are thinking about the next step. So when we do get out of our safe at home status, we'll perhaps be one step closer to a new Metro North station. So thank you so much for the information. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for bringing our friend Barati to us in another capacity.
Thank you all.
So I know that some of our board members have become familiar with our next presenter on different calls because she is came really at the perfectly right time because she's new to our office in the capacity of Director of Health and Human Services. But certainly she was right on time in that we had this really new thing, COVID-19, and a quickly developing pandemic, and also we're all trying to find our way in the process. So that being said, I want to just bring to you Dr. Nancy Keck. She is, again, our Director of Health and Human Services. She's going to give just an overview right now of the Bronx-related pandemic issues, and we will have some time for some questions and answers after her update. So she looks like she's still muted, Chris.
I'm having a little finding the where to click to actually share my slides.
There's on the bottom there should be some icons when you hover over the WebEx where the video is. There's an icon that looks like a share icon like you would see on the iPhone. The little box with the arrow pointing up.
Yeah, I saw that earlier, but somehow I don't see that now. I'm not sure why.
Well, let's be sure, Chris, you're not sharing anything, right?
I see. Okay, so I saw that box now.
Okay, so go ahead and click on that.
Good. This video has been locked. No. Okay, so here, share PowerPoint. Is that what it asks? Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Oh, can you see that?
Still
Is that visible to you?
Not yet. 1 second. So at the top of the screen, are you seeing there's like an orange and black bar that says sharing? Do you see that on your end?
When I look at my box, I see the box with the little arrow, and I clicked on that. And then I don't see anything up above. Sorry. Not sure.
Okay, when you click on, so you have a slideshow, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I have like 6 slides because I thought we were having a visual, but there are a lot of people on the phone. Chris also
Okay,
has my
so what I
slides.
would like you to do, Nancy, we're gonna sort of give you like 5 minutes to email that slideshow to Chris so he can present.
That's done already.
You did it. Oh, awesome. Hey! Okay, wonderful.
Let me take a look. Oh, yeah, there it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have that in just a minute or two. So just like with the MTA presentation.
So, no, that's fine. You can set it up anytime. I wanted to tell everyone that I generally begin my day, every day, with looking at the cdc.gov/coronavirus maps. I start, at the US level, and then I drill my way down to the Bronx. It's important because it allows you to get the big picture view of what's happening around the country, and that influences, of course, access to so many resources that we need locally because we are truly an epicenter. For those of you that are on the phone, that first slide, since you don't see it anyway, is a heat map of the US. It basically, in the darkest red, shows all the states that are really in dire situation and have well over 20,000 cases. What's of interest and of note is that in the south and on the eastern coast, there we go, you can see it now, those states that are in deep red, very many of them, note Florida, Texas, etc., are ones that were incredibly late to the game in having stay-at-home mandates. And that's why the spread in those places is huge. So once I look there, I generally drill down. I go to the state site. I think it's important, since all of us are supporting constituents in some way or another, it's a good way to be able to do your own research. There are treasure troves of data. In the state site, our state in particular, the DOH has done a brilliant job. It is compelling, it's easy to use, and all of you can be your own detectives and figure out lots of layers of information and how that impacts us locally. So if you move to the next slide. Whenever the governor and the mayor are speaking, they're always showing this map. Or rather this graph, which shows this big curve, and they are talking about flattening the curve. About 3 days ago, we announced the fact that here in New York, we were past the apex. That's the tip of that curve. So we've hit our peak numbers, and we're now going down. And the rate at which those numbers, that downward part is going, really is going to determine how we're going to unpause. For me, what's interesting is, we've seen too much of that curve. You can go to the next slide. What's interesting is that from the New York site, you can actually see how they create that curve, both the slope and the shape of it, and how they know that the numbers are slowing, because every single day on the New York State site, this is a composite, it's not live data from today, but it shows you that they compile from daily testing data how many people were tested overall in blue and how many were positive in yellow below that. And from that, they make this curve. And if you look when you go on the site, the New York State COVID tracker is a brilliant tool. I suggest all of you go and look for it. It is very simple, easy to use and see. On the right-hand panel, when you go into it, you'll see all of the counties listed. You can go to Bronx County, since we're all interested in the Bronx, and it gives you live data. Next slide. What's really interesting, when you get on that site, you'll see a heat map automatically of New York State. You'll see that, downstate, our area is, of course, epicenter. And if you look to the right of that map, you'll see, again, for Bronx, you'll see daily numbers, most of which are about a 24-hour lag. So for today, the numbers are from yesterday, really, 5 p.m., latest updates, 30,868 cases in Bronx alone. And that is extraordinary, but those numbers are actually dropping. So if you then navigate the rest of that site, what you don't see in the left panel, next slide, what you see is that on a daily basis, you can find out how many people have been tested in the Bronx, and of those, how many people tested positive. And if you look on the left-hand side, there's always a statewide assessment that tells you how many people overall have been tested to date from the beginning to now, and how many of those were positive. And for the most part, when you look at those, you'll see that of all the people that have been tested, it's always hovering above or below 50%. So in general, of all the people that get tested, around half of them wind up having a positive test. The numbers currently, I'll just read them to you for those of you that are on the phone. To date, they've tested 669,000 people, 982, so almost 670,000, and 257,000 of those have been positive. And overall, to date, in New York State, 15,300 people have died. That's pretty grim. And in the last 24 hours, 5,526 people have tested positive. So why is that important and interesting? One of the things that we've really been focused on recently, and you can move to the next slide, please. From that site, you can go, and when you click on the Bronx, you'll see that yesterday alone, 2,900 people, 2,942 were tested, and of those, 879 were positive. However, we're really focusing now on the fact that those numbers only reflect people who were severe enough to get tested, and it's a very small percentage of the overall population that really has been exposed to the virus. And so now there is a new focus and a new emphasis to really understand globally from the entire population how many people are in that silent group where they either were asymptomatic or they had just a sniffle or sneezing or, very mild symptoms so that they were not even aware that they, had been in contact with the virus. So this week, the DOH launched a new kind of a clinical research study. It was very interesting because they wanted to do random sampling, just of random people from around the state. They did it in multiple locations, upstate through downstate, and they did it at supermarkets where people were just going for daily food shopping. And what they did was over the course of 3 days, they got up to 3,000 test subjects. That was the limit. They wanted to take a small sample, and from that, they would be extrapolating generally for the rest of the population of all the people who are just randomly tested, how many actually have antibodies, meaning that at least 3 to 4 weeks prior, they had had contact with someone who had had the virus and themselves been infected. That was a fascinating study. And so next slide shows you why that's important. Overall, if you look at the number of recorded cases and deaths, there's a huge population of those people who are not included in those numbers. And now we're focusing our attention to those individuals who are both in nursing homes and other types of care facilities and also at home. And what you'll see if you look at the numbers for fatalities in those places, very few of those people have tested. So it really is you're twice as likely to have been a probable case of COVID if you were in a nursing home. And there is not enough data to really understand the scope of this and how to proceed and how to unpause New York. And so a lot of doing this research is really to help understand the level of population infection and also how do we determine when it's safe to let people go back out. The very last slide is just also when you go on the site, there's a tiny little button in the upper right-hand corner that allows you to look at very detailed information. What's very hot right now is looking at what's happening in nursing homes. And so yesterday, very late last night, they released the numbers for Bronx nursing homes. Those numbers are rising, unfortunately, and there are a lot of fatalities of individuals who are in those facilities. Most importantly to note is that most of them are already medically fragile, and are in a nursing home because they have they have other conditions that require daily medical attention. So that is an area where at least our office is really focused. We're working a lot communicating with nursing homes in order to find out if they have enough PPE, if there are ways in which we can support, help, advocate. And we've also been donating thousands of units of hand sanitizers to nursing homes in the Bronx. And I leave you on the note that I hope that you are all well. I hope that you are all taking advantage of being able to look up data on this COVID tracker. And if you have questions, you know, we are always open and willing and able to help. And I hope that some of our updates are useful for you. I know that Tom Lucania has told me that he does share them with you guys. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was just phenomenal. I wonder if you have a question, can you raise your hand now? From Community Board 11, what type of data can we expect in the future that is not currently available?
I think the most important thing is what we mentioned of the general population. How many of us have really had, you know, COVID already? And that's crucial to know, because right now we only know cases that have been documented through testing, either through the drive-through or hospital admissions. And those are the severe people. The rest of us have had exposure and they don't really know the extent, you know? It could be half the population, it could be higher. The study that they're doing now only looks at adults over 18. So for example, the random sampling was only from adults going shopping for food, and they're gonna expand that study over time. But if you think about our children, what they catch in school, and you know, from you know, little toddlers in daycare to teens, I think the numbers are going to be extraordinarily high in terms of how many of us have really been exposed and infected. We wait on that data.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Chris, any hands?
Yeah, George Torres. So I'll unmute him. We can. George, you're good to go.
Thank you. So my question for the doctor is, we had a committee meeting last night, and we were joined by a Dr. Diane Banks from BCC, and she was talking about, she's the program director for the medical laboratory at Bronx Community College, and she was talking about testing and ramping up testing, and she wanted to partner with Montefiore and the community board to do testing, I guess, when things, like when they start rolling up or rolling back these stay-at-home and shelter-in-order restrictions. Community Board's 12 was particularly hard. We had two of the worst zip codes, 10469 and 10467 in the Bronx. And there really wasn't any, when this rolled out, they didn't put any testing facilities in my neck of the woods. They did it in Co-op City, where I live. They've done it in New Rochelle, but they just rolled out Edenwald this past week. So one of the things that she said that she was interested in doing was getting, for the local communities, trying to ramp this up and having people on the local level, particularly BCC, do this program. But she was getting resistance from, I shouldn't say she was getting resistance, but really there was nobody that was saying yes from DOH or from anybody else, really. What are we doing to increase the testing capacity on the local level so that, because I always hear from the news that we have to ramp up testing in order to get back to normal. Why are they not tapping these local things that are willing to do it? And I think it especially in a situation like this, BCC is a local college. Having people here that know how to deal with this and giving them the firsthand experience is going to only be beneficial for us in the future.
I'm actually so glad that you asked that question, and I would recommend that your colleague, the resource that you mentioned, participate through the New York City and state portals. There are places where they can contribute to ongoing efforts based on whatever expertise they have and are offering. So that is something that we send out always at the end of, we have a resource list and I'm always updating it. So I can send that out. The thing this morning, I also participate in every single day in teleconferences, but I really love the COVID 692 service that the city, pushes text to my phone. And early this morning, I got one that said the NYC is opening testing sites citywide, and they have a new number and a new website to look at, and it's called onemedical.com. That's the website. And the number is also 1-888-1-ONE med, MED, with a number 1. And what that is this, so the city, the state, and then there are private entities that are also doing testing that people do not talk about, and that when we are pressed, let's say for the borough president to assemble all the testing sites, every single hospital in the Bronx is testing. And then there are those 3 testing sites that the DOH has set up. And then there are also private entities. So urgent care centers all do COVID testing. And for example, that was one of my little side projects where I was trying to determine how many of these small local walk-in urgent care centers are actually doing that. And that's an ongoing process, but I can tell you that I've confirmed, for example, with City MD, and they have all over New York City, they have locations that do testing. If you go and walk in or call them, one of the first prompts you hear is, please press 1 for your COVID test results. There are 9 facilities in Bronx, including in very high need areas like in the hub, all over in South, North, every corner, as well as many other small urgent care centers that also do testing for patients that are symptomatic. And so that's not something that is broadly publicized, but that people also get tested by their personal physicians. They can do the test, they mail it in, takes time, but the most efficient way is to do it through the city resources. Now, my understanding is that the city will be getting a lot of those rapid tests later today. Every Monday and Thursday, I go on the New York City teleconference for electeds, and we listen to what the city is same as what the mayor announces in his conferences, but we get to ask questions, and there are often more details offered so that we know what to anticipate and how to prepare our constituents. But they are really ramping up the testing because they need to know exactly how many people are currently infected and how many people have been infected in the past. And this gives them a much broader understanding of where we are in the overall course of this, entire pandemic, and how quickly we can anticipate implementing those measures to let some people who have been exposed and are no longer at very high risk and don't have other conditions to be able to slowly return back to work. I think that's the goal of that, is to be able to assess how and when we can start doing that. That's why they're really ramping up testing. More information than that, you have to stay tuned, but we will forward everything we have on that to Tom, and he can, of course, disseminate to all of the board members, the chairs and district managers.
So Community Board 5, I know you asked about new walk-in centers.
Right.
Do you feel that that answered your question, or should I read it in its entirety?
I just unmuted the BX05 user, if they're there.
Rika, yeah, if you don't mind, if you could read it.
What was the question? Is there someone asking?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just asked if you can give a more comprehensive answer about the rollout of new walk-in testing sites.
So the original question was, is there an update on new walk-in centers? There was one opened on Monday in CB4. Are there more that are expected?
Right. So aside from that one, which resulted from a call from a lot of the electeds in the Bronx that really brought out the fact that there are many people in low-income communities that don't have cars and are not going to be able to access drive-in centers. So that's why this Monday they opened those walk-in centers. I do not have any updated information, but later today, when we get on there's two things that I participate in. It is a weekly call for healthcare providers where they roll out, how and what they're going to be doing in terms of testing, drugs, et cetera. And then in the late afternoon, I do at 5 p.m. the city teleconference. After that, I will be able to tell you more because the announcement just went out this morning from New York City about this new One Med initiative to roll out a series of expanded testing centers throughout the city. Nothing more than that is available to me at the moment, but after, later today, I will be able to find out and I will be able to ask questions. If any of you have any very pointed and detailed questions, you can email them to me and I will be sure to bring them out at the call. Please do.
Okay. Can you give your email address?
It is N and then KHECK at bronxbp.nyc.gov.
Okay. Thank you. Community Board 9, is there data indicating cases and deaths per ward boundary? So I guess we're asking for board-specific data. Have you seen that anywhere?
No, just the zip code map, which you can access through the nyc.gov portal. They have a portal that allows you to see demographic data and it's geographic as well by zip code. And if you look at those maps, when you hover over them with your cursor, it shows you the number of people tested versus the number positive. So that's also a good resource. I happen to love the state site. It is brilliant. What it offers is consistent and always works, and the portal is amazing. So please use it. Do research. It's fun and interesting.
Yes.
John Dudley has his hand raised. Do you want me to?
Yes, please unmute, John. John, your question, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Deputy. I just had a question. I just wanted, I know we were going over the numbers, right? 65,000, over 65,000 in the Bronx were tested. A little over 30,000 are positive. My question is, at my board meeting on April 14th, there was an analysis when I looked at some of the zip codes, right? And I looked at the tested and the positive cases by zip code, because I'm primarily 104, 56, 59 and 60, a little bit of 57 and 51. But it appeared as though from a percentage standpoint that maybe about 12 to 15% of the overall Bronx count as it related to individuals that were tested and those that were tested that had positive results were in those zip codes. I guess my question is, there was also, and I don't know what those numbers may be now. Now with it being April 23rd, it possibly could be higher. I don't know whether or not there's some consistency in terms of the percentage, or it might even be spiking a little bit. Talk a little bit about, Doctor, if you could, the media campaign. I know that there was the public advocate, other elected officials were advocating. In fact, monies were appropriated, maybe over 18 million. I know from the middle of March, it was $8.5 million, and then not long ago, there was another $10 million media campaign. Talk a little bit about that, robocalls. I mean, what my concern is how, if that is the case, that the numbers are what they are, as it relates to zip codes, which impact primarily community boards number 3 and other districts as well. But what is being done to mitigate at least the extent of positive cases in those respective zip codes? Could you talk a little bit about that vis-a-vis the media campaign or any other efforts?
I think that once both the city and the state released data about fatalities and how it disproportionately affected low-income communities, and in the Bronx, that means primarily Black and Hispanic residents were significantly more vulnerable. And very often, because of health disparities, also had underlying conditions that in fact made them more vulnerable to having this very severe respiratory infection. I think the media campaign was meant to really publicize broadly in every possible channel, including in like hard copy flyers that were going out at food pantries and elsewhere, because they felt that it wasn't reaching people that were most vulnerable, that is elderly individuals and very often people living, for example, in NYCHA housing. So, we all know we have the highest concentration of public housing. And systematically, they have been trying to reach individuals who may not be active on social media, but who do need to know precautionary methods, symptoms, things to look out for, ways to protect yourself, when and how and where to wash hands, use hand sanitizers, be masked. All of the directives that have been coming out have only really been reaching a subpopulation of individuals, possibly such as ourselves, who are constantly seeking out new information and every day get updates and are fairly knowledgeable about how to protect ourselves. So that is pretty much all I can say about the media campaigns. It is not an area where I have really focused attention, but I know that both the city and state DOH have felt that was one of the most effective ways to slow down the rate of transmission.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, on that note. But let me just ask you, as it relates to testing, right? Other than, is it 9 or there may be 10 sites now, drive-through walk-in sites for testing purposes?
Right.
And then you mentioned, which was interesting, the urgent care, because I got one on 174th Street.
Right. There is.
Yeah. And all of the data that the state receives, right, that the state DOH receives from lab testing sites,
right,
it would be the testing sites related to the walk-ins, the drive-throughs, and the urgent care sites, or would there be additional testing sites other than those that the state would get data from and release as it relates to positive cases, fatalities, and otherwise? Are there?
So they are looking at opening a significant number of additional sites because they are clearly not capturing the entire population that has been exposed. And until now, because of the dearth of testing materials, they've only given it to the highest priority cases, first responders, healthcare workers on the front line, and people who are incredibly sick. So they only have a tiny window of understanding of who really has been ill and how widespread is it. Overall, I think they are moving towards a global testing strategy as soon as they sort of crunch the preliminary numbers to find out how really widespread it is. So they started small last week. They also started having focused testing in NYCHA housing, although I'm not sure how the rollout of that has been. There have been some stops and starts. I do not know. I'm not updated on that. There's another member in our team who if he were here, would be able to give you a much better update on what has been happening in the NYCHA system. But they are looking to do very global population testing. As those rapid tests become more available, they have invested, I think, millions and millions of dollars in being able to get those out at large throughout the state, and in particular downstate, because we are still an epicenter. So in the next weeks, you should be seeing and hearing about that effort, because that is the next phase in how the public health officials are dealing with the pandemic, and in order to understand where we go next, where we are, right?
Thank you, Don.
Thank you. It's nice to see faces. It's a pleasure, actually. Thank you.
It is nice.
Chris?
Let me just take a quick look again. I don't see any other hands raised. So with that, I'll unmute all of the telephone only users. Just give me a second, and then if anyone's got a question, we can.
Okay. So if there's a question for our telephone only users, now's the time. You're unmuted. Please step forward or proverbially step forward. Okay. Doesn't look like we have anybody, which is fine. I want to thank Nancy for that update. It's a very dense topic. There's just so many data sets and so many things to know, and certainly is so many active. It's a moving target, as we would say, and so we thank you, Nancy, for being our Corona czaress, as keeping completely updated with and informed on this topic. It's a daily, minute by minute operation. So thank you for that. So now is the part where we usually we come to the end of our presentations, and we would usually say, if there are any announcements, and everyone would say, we're having this great big event with a lot of people, please come out. So we know that there are none of those events going on, but I would still like to give an opportunity to board members first, and then anyone else to give us any announcement. So if there's anything that you want to make sure the other board members know that you're doing virtually or otherwise, if there are pantries that you want to make sure that people know about, whatever it is, now is the opportunity to do that. Put your hand up, use the hand raise function or the chat function. And if it's in chat, I'll read it. If your hand is up, then you will be unmuted by Chris. And then we'll take it from there. So anyone with an announcement, question, concern, or anything at this point?
I am not seeing anything in terms of hands.
Okay. And I'm not seeing anything.
Eric Pesner from our office has his hand up. Eric, what?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to follow up on just what Nancy was saying before about the virus. The NYCHA testing sites, the mayor announced yesterday that they're opening 6 of them across the city for priority for NYCHA residents. And there's one location in the Bronx, and that's at Belvis Medical Center in Mott Haven. So for priority is for testing for NYCHA residents. And on the question about where the state gets its data from, they actually don't get the data from the testing sites. They get them from the labs. So it doesn't matter where the test is conducted. The labs are the ones that send the data from to the state, and the state uses that data.
Okay. I got you. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you for that, Eric.
All right. So, yeah, still no other hands raised here in WebEx, so I'll just unmute the phone users one last time in case they have anything.
Okay, phone users, now's the time.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
I have a question.
who are we speaking with?
My name is Emmanuel, CD7.
Okay, go right ahead.
To the last speaker, I believe you said there are NYCHA testing centers in the Mott Haven area. What's the name of the location again?
It's at Belvis Medical Center, and it's opening. It's actually opening tomorrow, and it hasn't opened yet.
Okay, opening tomorrow. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Can elected make announcements yet or not yet?
You go right ahead. Say what's on your mind.
Hi, it's Farah Rubin with Councilman Jonai's office. I just wanted to reach out, let everyone know every week we are hosting virtual teletown hall events about resources and information for constituents. Today at 1 p.m. we are hosting with Department for the Aging a town hall about senior resources. You would just have to call in to 339-207-7899 and the passcode 7364677. Thank you.
Okay, just say that one more time, because for me it was going in and out. So just say it one more time slowly.
Yeah, we have a senior resources town hall event today at 1 p.m. with Department for the Aging and Councilman Jonai. The number is 339-207-7899 and passcode is 7364677.
Okay, that's a really important resource for our seniors. Anyone else?
Can agency make the report now?
Hello. Oh,
Yeah, if you're on the
hello.
line and you want to make a comment or have an announcement, just go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is Karina from New York City Emergency Management. I hope everyone is well. So just want to go over a couple of things that we would like to share. We've been sharing constantly in our bulletin that goes out every Wednesday, but just want to highlight. I know you guys saw probably the press release from the mayor. He is, really focusing on recruiting healthcare workers to join us in the fight against COVID-19. I know a couple of weeks ago, we put in a blurb in our newsletter saying that we were looking for healthcare workers to help staff the local hospitals, but now, and we'll continue to do that operation as needed and requested by the local hospital. Now we are asking for help that can help our nursing homes as well. So we are working to staff our local nursing homes that are in their need of healthcare workers. So if you know anyone that is interested, there's different ways they can sign up. They can do it through the Help Now NYC website. You all have it. Or they can just, you can connect us through us and we can direct them to the right channel. In addition to that, we would like to thank those of you who push our Shared Space program, which is a program to help us identify private spaces that can be used for different operations throughout the 5 boroughs. Right now, there is also a hotel program in place. So the city issued this program to as a free hotel stay to eligible New Yorkers who cannot isolate where they live. This program has 2 components, and I want to be clear about it. One component is for healthcare workers and volunteers who say they would like to help, but they cannot just go back to their home because they have all the loved one living with them and they're afraid of, being exposing the loved ones to COVID-19 as well. So that is that for them. And then the other one is to individuals that would like to be isolated, but that has to come through a healthcare provider. So let's say, for example, and I'm sorry, Ken, I'm going to use you, but let's say, for example, Ken, you say that, you go to your healthcare provider, he identified, yes, you need to be isolated. He has to be the one registering you into the hotel program. And this is very well detailed on the website and the link that I'm going to share on the comments. So individual like myself cannot just walk into the hotel program and say, I want to be in it. It has to be referred. And the guidelines I detail on this website that I'm going to share with you guys. The Get Food program has served over 1.6 million meals in different ways. As you all know, there's different meals program throughout the New York city, and we're asking people to call 311 to make sure that they're routed to the best one based on your needs. I know 311 is getting a high volume of calls, and we understand there's a lot of issues with 311, but as you point out those issues, we're working with 311 to flag this issue to 311. So if you know of any issues and you want to flag it for OEM, we can pass it on to 311. That's totally fine with us. But we encourage everyone to go 311 because they can actually put you in the right program that you need. I know we had a question previously about if NYCHA residents are getting routed through the Get Food program, and they are. NYCHA is working to different agencies working in the food programs to make sure that the residents are being covered under that program. Whoever needs the meals, get the meal. We have a lot of public messages information, but the two ones that I want to share is something that the doctor mentioned before. We have the Nixle, which is you text 692-692, and you get all this information about COVID-19. We're pushing a lot of messages in English and Spanish. If you want additional messages in different languages, you can use the Notify NYC, which is coordinated. So all the messages that we're pushing through the Nixle, you also get it through the Notify NYC program. And it's available. And last but not least, we have a bulletin that is going out to community boards and all elected officials throughout the 5 boroughs. It has a lot of information. I know in the past people have asked us if they can share that information. You can copy the information, but we ask you not to share directly the information from our bulletin with all the members outside of your community boards because it has our contact information on it. And the intergov emailed intergov@oem.nyc.gov is designed specifically to be a conduit for you guys to reach out to us. And if you share outside, people might be reaching out to us and taking that time that we can be answering your questions and concern. If you have any questions and if there's anything that I didn't address and you want to put it on the comment, I can answer. Or if you want to email me directly or email the team, we can also do so that way. I know some people have questions and sometimes it's not up, and we will be more than glad to connect you to the right path. Thank you.
Hello? Hello?
Who's that?
Hello.
Who is that speaking?
Yes, we hear.
Hi, it's Erica Downing from the Health Department. So just brief updates. As you know, we are currently working, with this pandemic. We're asking all New Yorkers to stay home. If by any chance you feel sick more than 3 to 4 days, we definitely ask you to reach out to your healthcare provider, in which your healthcare provider will refer you to additional testing if needed. If you don't have a healthcare provider, any constituents that do not, we ask you to call 311. We are working with H&H, in which we're connecting individuals to healthcare providers in their immediate area. And then general rules, we're asking individuals if they have to leave their home for essential needs to practice social distancing rule, and if that is not applicable, to please use a face covering. This doesn't necessarily need to be a mask. It could be a bandana or a scarf. And in the event that you have any specific questions or any data-related questions, our website is updated on a daily basis. Anything specific, you can always reach out to me. Everyone has my contact information. My email, e.downing@health.nyc.gov. Thanks.
Okay.
Hello?
Any other? Yes, go.
Can you hear? Hi, good morning, everyone. Prayers and thoughts to everyone who might have been affected by this pandemic going on right now. This is Jermaine Williams from Intergovernment Affairs, HRA. So real quick, the one thing we want to definitely emphasize and we keep pushing each day is that we want individuals that need some type of financial assistance, mainly SNAP, cash, Medicaid, to go to Access HRA to sign up. Every Tuesday, our commissioner has took the time to give updates pretty much weekly about concerns that are going on within the agency and new changes that we try to that we're working on implementing each day because of the dynamics of what we're all running into. We know right now that employment, rent concerns are always going to be there, but please keep in mind that right now our goal as an agency is focusing on people who are going to run into financial hardship, meaning food. We know there's going to be times people making decisions between paying their rent and putting food on the table, which is, something we hope nobody would ever have to do. But of course, this is what we pretty much are into right now. But we do know, because of the fact of changes implementing courts are being closed, and there's actually no sense of people being able to be evicted at this point, our priorities are going to be focused on really making sure people get financial assistance. If anybody does have concerns, and the ones that I'm hoping for, especially with our elected officials and our partners, that people who are not who have active cases or who applied and don't have benefits the calendar month, to please send me an email. My email address is williamsje@dss.nyc.gov, because those are the ones that we want to mainly focus on, because those are problems that we see. Stay safe. Any questions, please let me know. And everyone have a blessed day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I want to bring everybody's attention to the chat function. There are some folks that are dropping their contact information in that functionality. They are also dropping in emails and links in that functionality. I'm bringing your attention there. So if you want to go there and grab that information now before the call ends, of course, when the call ends, it will not be available, at least in that function. So just go in there, and grab out what you need. I'm going to continue with the folks on the call. Is there anyone else who needs or wants to make a comment, make an announcement about your agency, what's going on, COVID related or otherwise?
Suray Miranda, pronounced that correct, had the hand raised.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Suri Miranda from with the Mayor's Office, Community Affairs Unit. I just wanted to make two announcements specifically because today's the last day to apply for it. So I have shared with most of the district managers of the boards that I cover a document asking people to complete a form to request this is weird. The device, a DOE device for students. So today is the last day. If people want to receive the device next week, if they complete the form later, they will be receiving the device sometime in May. So I just want to make sure that if you're able to share that information, I can share with you here the link, so you can pass it forward to anyone who has students with the DOE to receive the device. And yeah, that I think is what I have for now.
Okay, so to be clear, you're saying if you have a student in DOE and you do not yet have a device for the online learning, that then DOE will provide it, and at this point, and you need where should the person go?
So I just shared the link in the chat section. They should complete that form. The devices that we are sharing are already connected to the internet, so you may get questions from people about internet access. All the devices that we are delivering right now are already connected to the internet. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and this is something that we're still getting guidance, is specifically for folks that have that are trying to repatriate the bodies of their loved ones to countries. So I know that people are having a lot of challenges trying to navigate with consulates. So if you have any constituent that needs to connect with their respective consulates, just please send them my way. I'll share with you my contact information in the comment section.
Okay, wow, that's really important as well. Thank you so much. Just for the folks that may be watching on the stream, Can the same information in terms of getting that device be navigated through the mayor's website, or should it be the DOE website?
So, I'm sorry, this like remote working situation with my husband, you can hear him in the background.
No, we can't hear him.
Oh, you cannot? Oh, that's perfect. So I put in the comment section the application for the remote learning device. So people can go to that website and complete a survey. Once they complete the survey, they should receive their electronic device next week. If they answer that form today by the closing of day. If they do it after today, they will likely receive the electronic device sometime in May.
Okay. To be clear, there may be folks watching that are not on the call and don't have access to the chat. Can they get it through the mayor's office website or DOE or?
I will just say the link is very simple. It is, let me just pull it up here. So the link is schools.nyc.gov/devices.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think folks would be really interested, especially as they have students that are.
I forgot about that, the fact that people cannot see the chat section. That's good.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's a lot to juggle with the new technology. So thank you so much for that. I know that's going to be helpful to everyone. Again, we're still on the line with the folks on the phone, and you can use the raise your hand function, but we're in the announcement comments section of our meeting. And if there's anyone who has anything that they'd like to say before we close out, now's the time to do it.
Jackie Carter has her.
Hi, I was informed, it's Erica Downing from the Health Department. I was informed, I'm not on the actual chat, but I was informed that there was a question for me regarding if the Health Department is providing masks. Ken, the Health Department isn't providing any masks to community boards or constituents in general. Again, you don't necessarily need to wear a mask. You can wear a scarf or a bandana around your mouth and nose area if you do have to go out. So I just wanted to answer the question.
Oh, I apologize, Ken. I didn't see that. Sorry. You said Jackie. Jackie.
How you doing? Hi. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I just wanted to make sure that the Borough President's Office and all of the community boards and all of the elected officials have been receiving the tons of emails that I've been sending you, and just want to make sure that you know that the MTA is here for you. I wanted to remind you that our website, newmta.info, provides you daily updates of the COVID-19, of exactly what we're doing. You probably know that the last information I sent you is that all of our customers who travel on public transportation, either a subway or a bus, need to now have face coverings or masks. So I think that's the last information that I sent you. I will always continue to send you information. Everyone has my email address, which is jacqueline.carter@nyct.com. So if you have any questions or concerns, and I know many of you have been sending it to me, I will always do my best to get back to you. The reason why I'm bringing the website to your for you to be aware, because they update that daily, and there might be some information that I need to check the website myself. I mean, it's just not the subways and the buses. We have to remember that paratransit accessoride has changed, MetroCard information has changed, MetroCard vans have changed. So there's a lot of different things in everyone's district that if you're really concerned, check that website. If it's still not clear, of course, you can always reach out to me, and I'm still here. So, and I appreciate being on the call. And I was able to actually get on the video, so I can see most of your faces. Thank you so much. Just be safe, and like I said, I'm still here in the Bronx. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Chris?
There we go. Sorry. On the tech side of things, I don't see any other hands raised, but I just wanted to say, everyone who got this meeting invitation from Marisol, you have my email address there. If you don't have that email, it's on our website. But if you have any technical feedback about this, obviously this is a very new experience for all of us. So any issues, suggestions, questions, that kind of stuff, thank you to Do It for connecting us with WebEx, so we had the ability to have this meeting this way. But if you have any tech stuff, shoot me an email. I can take it back to them. If I don't know the answer, I can ask them, and we can see, assuming we're going to do more of these, we can see what kind of things we can do to make them better for all of you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think that obviously there are challenges. I think we mostly got through this meeting unscathed, and that's certainly thanks to you, Chris. Thanks to Marisol. Thanks to all of the team who helped us try to work through some kinks beforehand. So you guys should know that we did try to do this and practice before we got you all involved. It went well, so we decided to get you all involved, and it was fine. Again, thank you so much. This may be the new normal, but it's normal for us to be a little bit chaotic. So we are happy to be a part of this and happy to have you here. I'm going to close out the meeting because we did everything that we meant to do today. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you in some capacity next month, either in this venue, probably in this venue, and cross your fingers that eventually we'll see each other in person. And happy Thursday, and goodbye.